able to bounce back. It's actually being able to bounce back better. simply being able to bounce back. It's actually being able to bounce back better.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to EMDRCM Live. This is an outreach
Good
of
evening.
the Executive Master in Disaster Risk and Crisis Management from the country's premier graduate school for business and management, the Asian Institute of Management. It's July 24, 2020, just a week before we finally say goodbye to this month and move to the rest of 2020. Things are still a little crazy with cases continuing to rise, not only in the Philippines but elsewhere. This is episode 16, and we're very happy to have with us tonight two distinguished gentlemen from Mindanao. One has been our previous guest when we talked about Alubihid, and disaster risks management activities there. And this evening, we are joined by the local disaster risk and reduction management officer from Zamboanga City. So I will let these guys introduce themselves. Let's start with our um, first timer, Sir Jade.
Yeah, buenas noches, Sir Wally, Sir Tristan. Buenos días, buenas noches, del Pilipinas. I am
Welcome.
Engineer E. Apolinario. I am the City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Officer of Zamboanga City. I have been with the government service for the past 32 years. I was once the acting city administrator of the city of Zamboanga, and I'm happy to be here. I am married. I have 3 children. One is a British citizen based in London. Another one is in Auckland, New Zealand, also a resident of that country. And my youngest son is in grade 10, my only boy. So my wife is also connected with the government. She's with Pag-ibig Fund. And I enjoy student life. That's why I'm here. I studied at AIM.
Thank you, Sir Jade. And Tristan, welcome back.
Hello, thank you, Wally. Thank you, Sir Jade. My name is Tristan Lindsay Ares. I'm happily married to a public school teacher. I'm a law graduate and at the same time business management graduate of one of the Ateneo school here in Cagayan de Oro City. I'm a licensed environmental planner and I'm currently the local disaster risk reduction management officer of Alubihid, Misamis Oriental, and occupying position also designated as the waterworks supervisor of our waterworks system here in our municipality.
Right. And for tonight, our topic is not uh, more on the technical stuff, but more on the personal journey. How has life been for our DRRM officers amidst the pandemic? So, top of mind, guys, how is your city or your municipality doing right now? What are the current status that you are working with?
Doc, you first, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's been a big change for me, personally for me, because the pandemic has turned our daily life into something more than what it is used to be. So as of now, I'm the co-lead and chief implementer of the interagency task force uh, against COVID for the city of Zamboanga, and I practically address all the issues that comes into the office and in the task force COVID. We regularly have to meet and discuss these issues, but it doesn't stop me also from also addressing the other thematic areas as a DRM officer of the office and the city. And yes, it has been quite a strain on my part and on the part of my colleagues in the service, because really this pandemic has really turned our lives upside down.
Sir Jade,
Really, yep.
what is the status of the cases right now in Zamboanga City?
Well, it's surging. Very unfortunately, it's really surging. That's why we had to revert back to GCQ the first week of this month. In fact, from initial figure of about only 50, it's now almost 500
Okay.
COVID positive.
Okay.
I just came from a meeting discussing
So the situation has become more complicated with the number of cases going higher.
yes, yes. It has been complicated by the influx of the locally stranded individuals and the returning of the Filipino workers.
Right. We'll
And
go
of
back to
course,
that. We'll get that to that discussion later, Doc Jade. I'll ask Sir Tristan, what about in Alubihid? What is the status of cases there now?
Before we talk about it, Sir Wal, Alubid was really not a problem at all regarding the influx of COVID cases. Now, presently, we already have one positive, which is who's LSI, and then there are two pending uh, waiting for confirmatory swab tests right now. Still don't know what is the result, but the trend is right there, and because of that, we are put on an alarming stage right now, and people are right now begin to panic, and it depends now on us how to mitigate and curtail those kind of stigma. Because apparently, previously, when we don't have those positive cases, there are already stigma already that being brought up here in our town, even though we don't have positive cases. So that
Right.
is the trend, the current state.
And I think for both Sir Jade and Sir Tristan, Sir Jade, you have an airport, and Tristan, your town sits next to Laguindingan, which is the
Yes.
airport there in that part of Misamis Oriental. So this would also complicate things for you guys.
yes. In fact, Zamboanga City is the gateway to Western Mindanao and to Basulta provinces. And that's why it's really an issue when you have this returning LSIs and the RFs coming into our city through our city. So that's why we really have to do more in coordination works with our neighboring provinces and other cities in seeing to it that when their LSIs arrive, they should already be also brought home immediately. Otherwise, we will be overwhelmed. That is what is happening now. We have about 40 quarantine areas, 40 pension houses, hotels that are being used as quarantine areas. Unfortunately, these are not enough, which is why we have made representation with the national government to help us out manage the LSIs. Let's say calibrated returning of the same.
Wait, Sir Jade, your LSIs are staying in hotels,
Yes, yes, pension
and
houses.
that is paid for in full, including the food by the city
Yes,
government.
yes, it's really eating our resources, and of course, it's really already becoming a burden on the part of our health officials, health workers, because ultimately they have to back down. They have to also go back to their own families. I have a staff, I have a team from my office that has not gone home for the past 4 months. A team
Wow.
of EMS who have been quarantined looking after the COVID positive patients in one quarantine area, and they've been there for almost 4 months,
Right.
not seeing their families.
Wow. Okay, Tristan, in your case, there's one positive, and I don't know if you also put in your LSIs in hotels.
Now, for us, being a fourth class municipality, we have tried to manage because of the limited resources. We try to make use of the barangay isolation unit. Now, aside from the barangay isolation unit, we also have the municipality run isolation unit. Now, because of this influx of LSI, most of these barangay isolation unit are already accommodated and fully booked. Now, high time now that the municipal run isolation unit will be the one utilized. Uh, forecasting moving forward, we don't know how many influx LSI is coming. So it will come a time that the municipal run isolation unit will be full. So that's the time. Then that's the time we are going to plan again what to do next.
Okay. I heard, Sir Jade, you mentioned earlier today about the new batch of LSIs coming today.
Yeah. In fact, it was over the news the other day because they were chanced upon by the broadcasters in one of the ports in Manila, the pier in Manila Pier. And I think they were interviewed and they were bound for Zamboanga, but we had to issue the authorization for them to be able to take the boat and return to Zamboanga City. And they're expected to arrive tonight.
And you also have some people coming in from Malaysia, was it? Indonesia?
Yes, yes. In fact, I just had a meeting with Yusek Cesar Yano, and of course from DSWD, and together with the mayor, we were discussing together with the other governors of the Basulta province and Bar provinces on the returning of our transferees, Filipino transferees from Sabah, Malaysia. And we expect no less than about 300 or 400 of them coming back by July 28 or 29.
Next
So
week.
arrangements have been made. And of course, we pleaded with the national government that instead of having them brought to Zamboanga direct, some of them may be allowed to disembark in Tawi-Tawi, and then some will have to be brought to Zamboanga City because they have to be brought to their home provinces through land or by air. So we have no quarrel about that, but we ask that prior coordination should be made with the provinces or cities concerned so that they can be here on hand to receive their Filipino constituents also of their province or
Right.
cities.
Okay. Sir Jade, you mentioned that some of your staff members have not gone home for 4 months. I could
Yeah.
imagine the craziness of really being in the front lines. But you guys, you gentlemen, how has this pandemic affected you personally? How has the changes been from your previous routine as DRRMO to the routines that you have today?
Well, for me personally,
Um,
Let's go
I'd
with
say,
Sir Jade, Sir Tristan.
yeah, for me personally, I really had a problem starting April because my daughter, who is also a health frontliner in London, she works at Royal Brompton, was afflicted with COVID. So she's all alone. She had to fend for herself. She had to stay alone in her flat, and good enough, she managed herself and was able to recover. Now, my wife was also a suspect probably because patient number two was her office mate, and they were together in Manila during a workshop for 4 days. So she came home. Her office mate was hospitalized for over 2 months, and my wife was a suspect. So, mean to say, I was also a suspect, and
Right.
it really affected our lives.
Okay.
But God is so good. We were able to manage.
Yeah. Okay. Tristan.
yes, for me, while being in a fourth class municipality, this is a new challenge for us because most of us are trained only on natural calamities, meaning flood, earthquake. This time around, it's more of a science-based airborne medical kinds of calamity. So we have taken aback. We've taken aback, and then let the health personnel do their stuff. More often right now, we took the responsibility of just augmenting personnel support, logistical support to these health personnel. Because of this new and unfamiliar kind of battle, we took a step back and then try to figure out where we could fit in, being a disaster risk reduction management officer.
Right. Sir Jade referenced earlier that you're not just looking at COVID. You're looking at all the other disasters in your areas. And Tristan, when you were last with us at DDMCR Live, you mentioned the water issue that you were encountering. How is the situation right now?
Now it's the opposite wall. It's raining
Okay.
hard. So currently right now, I'm monitoring the volume of water that's pouring down the drain in the mountainside because apparently 2 weeks ago, we are on the verge of evacuating people, but for me, the evacuating this community and putting them in an evacuation area would probably increase the risk of COVID infection. So that is my dilemma right now, whether or not when to evacuate in such a manner that they too can also be not infected. So
Right.
it's matter of management right now.
And the evacuation areas need to also follow your social distancing and
Correct.
personal hygiene. Wow. So from
That's the
drought,
challenge.
you're moving to floods.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Okay. And Doc Jade, Zamboanga City has never run out of disasters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So
Including human-induced disasters.
including human induced. But right now, aside from COVID, are there any particular concerns that you are monitoring?
Yeah, earthquake, and of course, fire, conflagration. Because Zamboanga City is an old city, and we have our houses here so densely populated. The barangays are densely populated, so we need to really work on this, check on this, particularly engage the communities in getting them know what to do during fire or conflagration.
Right. So,
It's a continuous
gentlemen,
effort.
yeah, yeah. I'm guessing you both are crazy people.
That's true.
Why would you go into a career where you are constantly uh, thrown
That's out.
into the disaster end of the spectrum when it's all about headaches and problems and issues? Why did you get into this space?
Maybe dedication to the service. You know, Sir Wally, I believe, in fairness to the other offices, I think the DRRM officers are the only ones now going back to the offices. Most of them are working at home.
But how did you get started in this, Sir Jade? How did you get into the DR space?
Well, when I was with the city administrator's office, we were the office tasked to handle DRR. When that law was signed in 2010, we were tasked then by the mayor to oversee the functions of the DRR. That was in 2010. So came 2015, I was given that opportunity by the new mayor if I would want to take a lead and be the new DRM officer, but I have to give up the city administrator's office, which I did.
And Sir Tristan, the story is the same with you, I remember.
No, it's I think the story is unique because apparently, while I was a secretary of the mayor at that time, there was an opening position for local disaster. Unfortunately, when they were trying to find personnel who are willing to be appointed to that position, no one is willing because they know that the work being poured into this kind of position requires perseverance, sacrifice, time. So nobody took it. So eventually, the mayor looked at me and said, "Would you willing to accept?" I say, "Okay, I'm willing to get the position." So that's the time. And then from then on, it was my realization that I realized that pala, this is my passion already, saving lives, humanitarian reason. So it was like a blessing in disguise for me at that time.
Right. And if you guys, those who are watching us live stream on Facebook, if you get a chance to listen to this gentleman in class, you can see and hear the passion when they argue about their expertise about local governments. So I'd like to ask Sir Jade first before Sir Tristan, what has been the most challenging experience for you in terms of disaster risks management?
The most challenging was selling what I wanted to do.
Okay, explain.
Well, before COVID started, I had a lot of ideas before the declaration. So I wanted to go into equipment pooling. I wanted to go to capacity building, which was why when I was in Manila, I spoke with some of our classmates and brought the idea of how can we go about a training on radiological, chemical, and nuclear workshop. So I was setting up the modules. When I came back, I tried to sell it to CTPs and other council. They were hesitant at first because it entails a lot of resources. But I had my way. I was able to have the votes. So it was approved to a resolution. So come January, I started meeting with all the stakeholders and we started procuring process. And I'm happy that because of that, because of the training I got from AIM being more proactive, systems thinking, as they say, or critical thinking. So I started going into several aspects of planning. And you know what? Because of that, we were able to get all the PPEs in time. So when the pandemic broke out, I already had the PPEs with me. And because of that, I already had the training. I already had the protocols in place with the hospitals and the other responders. So it was quite a thing that we did prior to the declaration of the national pandemic. And we were happy that because of that, we were able to assist, the office was able to assist the medical center, our only medical center, catered to the region. The greatest challenge that I encountered was selling this to some of our legislative members because they also have the idea of how
Right.
things have been run, which we understand.
And it's, I think, common to most situations where we find ourselves trying to get people to think about disasters ahead of time. People
Yes,
tend to look at the disasters when it's right in front of us. And by
yes,
that time, it's too late to prepare. So great job, Sir Jade. Tristan,
yes,
what about you?
For me, the greatest challenge for me is advocating disaster risk or resiliency to the community. Uh, for most, for except for the local Dream O for highly urbanized cities and provinces, the local Dream O in municipalities, okay, have been branded as, you know, rescuers, responders, relief goods operation, social welfare. So those are the status quo. Those are what been branded by the local DMO, especially in the lower class municipality. But for us, what we're trying to dream of is that involving the community in trying to get their attention, getting buy-in on disaster risk so that we would not have a problem spending out money for response operation, recovery, rehabilitation. What we want is that these people have a sense of ownership regarding preparation, resiliency in their own household. So that is our biggest challenge right now because for us, the communication, how to convey this information, this kind of education to these lowly communities down to the household level is really a burden for us because of those brands that we are just a responder and emergency operation technician.
Right.
That
So
is
if you're listening from the sharing of Sir Jade and Sir Tristan, it appears that the challenge is really getting the buy-in from the community all the way
yes,
to the people in the upper levels of governance in the LGU. Okay. So earlier, Sir Jade mentioned that his wife was suspected. His daughter was
yes.
actually got
Okay.
infected, and two or three of your children are out of the country. Two, Sir
Yeah,
Jade?
yeah. Two,
Okay,
two.
right. So I don't know how the setup is right now. So how is your family life different with the COVID-19? I know, Tristan, that your wife is also in public service. So how
that's
is the
correct.
setup right now? Are they more concerned because you are right in front of this pandemic? Do you spend less time with them? I think they would be happier with you more out of the house. How is it?
We spend less time together because I have to leave the office at the house by 7 a.m. in the morning and I come home about 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. And she also goes ahead of, she goes to the office also ahead of me and she comes home early.
She
So we have
works
about
at the municipal at the city office also, Sir Jade.
no with a Pag-ibig
Ah,
fund.
Pag-ibig
Pag-ibig
fund, right, right, right.
fund. So we spend every day about 3 or 4 hours only and then that's for Monday to Saturdays
Okay,
because I
wow.
report Saturdays.
Okay, Tristan.
Yeah, for us, Wally, nothing's still the same. usually go back to our respective offices, especially the nature of my job, which is, especially right now, I'm handling waterwork services. So from time to time, people would call me up because they have no water supply. For my wife, every day they have a webinar for the DepEd
Okay.
because on they have to make the module, the plans for in going back to class. So nothing's new, still the same. There's no normal except that uh, those new health standard we need to follow with the putting masks on. That's the only difference. But normally, professionally, it's still the same.
Okay, good. Well, I think, and also you guys are veterans when it comes to disaster, and the pandemic, while it's novel for most of us, is again going through the motion of attending to the needs of our constituents while managing our personal lives. So how do you relax? How do you unwind? How do you get your mind off of these things?
Well, for me, every Sunday, I take my family out, my wife, my son, we go out. Although you can bring them to a public place because it's quarantine day. We just go around. We take a ride, go about 15, 20 kilometers from the city, and then come back, and then just pass away time through driving. Bonding, that's the bonding that we do every Sunday, so that at least they can see what things are doing, how things are being done in the city of Zamboanga during quarantine day.
Okay, Tristan.
Yes, while we're so busy watching Netflix in our bedroom. So that's one thing. And then wash clothes together, playing with our dogs. So usually those family time, especially those time, small moment, we usually make up together, maybe spend most of it. Otherwise, we don't have enough time for ourselves really. So that is how we spend time, especially during break, and study, read for our courses. So that is one.
Right. So and good that you referenced that. For the benefit of those who are watching this on Facebook, these two gentlemen and a couple other classmates in class are frontliners. So you could just imagine the pressure that they go through while they're trying to manage a situation in their respective cities. At the same time, manage the difficult challenges that comes with studying at AIM with the case studies and all of that. So, Sir Jade, Sir Tristan, how do you manage? It's not easy for frontliners. I think some frontliners would give up given the enormous pressure that you go through.
I almost gave help me out, walk me through, giving me encouragement. So I had to stick, and I hope and pray that in the coming months, coming weeks, I will submit all the deliverables.
Okay. Yeah.
It has really been an honor and privilege to be part of AIM.
Right.
AIM has provided me a lot of inputs that I can work on in my office. It has practically ushered a new understanding of what DR is all about.
Tristan, what about you?
For
You've
me,
managed to really balance your time.
well, the important aspect of these challenges is the support system. You have to say to it that inform all your family, your wife, even your staff. You have to inform them and put them into a position that you have your own goals during the day. So with that, each of them has given now a perspective that in times like this, when you needed the most to study, or in times like this and you needed the most to be with your family, each of them already have a perspective now of that, playing their own role in their respective space. So the importance of support system is what makes them, which what make us stronger right now, and trying to be on the way, especially with the study, with the work, and with family.
Right. Okay. So now we're talking about the studies. Let's go deep dive into that. Doc Jade, you mentioned that the education you've been getting from the EMDRCM program has helped you. You talked about all of these learnings that went into the discussions about the radio logic. I was hearing you mention that earlier. Can you expound some more on how the program has actually helped you become a better DRRM officer?
Well, for once, no, I was happy with what Sapadapa means. That's one. And then when I got that CBDRE, it really boggled my mind because I just used to see that in the movies, and now I'm seeing that people walking in PPEs. My God, I never thought it would happen in the Philippines. So I was so happy that I started something way back in December, January, and good enough because of the proteins that we had the justifications that I had to present to the disaster council, city council, we were able to get also additional funds to address COVID. Although I believe a lot of them don't see on what I see, but ultimately in the long run, uh, it will really come out that we did what needs to be done for a good of city of Zamboanga, especially the government officials and of course the people, the constituents. But I will say much more that things really need to be in place in the future so that we can avoid the fatalities that we experience or the problems that came about because of the crisis.
Tristan?
Yeah, for me, what I have learned so far in AIM that really helps me a lot is the 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 theories, the frameworks, the models that they have given us really give us a basis of how do we going to deal things, especially in our career and working. And personally, bridging leadership course really has a big impact, especially in dealing with people. Empathy, empathizing with them, negotiating, creating an open space, co-creation, and all that stuff. Really, because for us at the local level, especially in the municipality, because of the synergy, because of the proximity that most of us are relatives, and then most of us know each other. Okay, it's sometimes our work are more or less run on a personal level. So with that, things are beginning to be emotional, especially in decision making. So definitely for us, in my level, in my context, the relationship, building trust, building, sensing where the other come from, their interest. That would what resonates me in this in AIM. The technical stuff it's given, data visualization, social marketing that's given, but the more on the personal stuff, that is where AIM resonates.
Okay. So, do you gentlemen feel that because of the pandemic, the other members of the city government or the local government where you are more appreciative of DRCM in general?
So I didn't get it.
Do you think they appreciate the role, your role, more with the pandemic? The other members of the local government team, do they have a better appreciation of the DRCM right now, or they just think that, well, that's part of their job and it's expected from them?
Doc, you know, Doc Jade. Hello,
Tristan, you
Doc
go
Jade.
ahead. Tristan, you go ahead.
Okay. For me, our local chief executive and the task force really delegate the full responsibility of this COVID-19 crisis to the health personnel. So for now, DRCM has been put aside for the meantime because for all they know, other pandemics will come, then we will be the ones who will handle it. COVID-19 is a delicate and scientific medical process wherein none of us are trained. Given almost all of us, local Dream O, have never been trained. even our plans are not yet prepared for this, because most of our plans right now have been disrupted because of this COVID-19. And right now we're beginning to integrate the COVID-19 into our own plan. So that is how local Dream O the status of local Dream O right now in the face of pandemic. So since this is new, then local Dream O has not yet fully been recognized as part of the COVID-19 crisis in our context in Fort Crest Municipality.
What about you, Sir Jade? Is the local government officials from in Zamboanga more supportive, more a fan of your role now than before?
Well, to tell you frankly, Sir Wally, we are a very new office. We were created only in 2015. We started with 11 personnel, permanent personnel, and then we were provided about 23 job order employees. So more or less we're just about 31 employees. And we operate 24/7 with the land area, very big land, the biggest, I think, number 3 in the Philippines, land area wise. We have 98 barangays, and the LG has been supportive of our undertakings. In fact, in 2017, we were even awarded number 3 in the entire Philippines in the DRR, behind Quezon City and I think it was Davao. Davao got the number 1 place, followed by Quezon City, and we were number 3 in the entire Philippines. Gawad Kalasag. Now, in terms of being the focal in this pandemic, my office was tasked to take the lead because in one ordinance, in by-risk ordinance, we were tasked to be the lead office with City Health Office. But in this pandemic, this COVID pandemic crisis that we are facing now, we are supposed to be 3. And we started with 3, mayor, myself, and the City Health Officer. But I asked the mayor that in terms of information generation, I should be left out. Who should be doing the talking will only be the mayor and the health officer. But I will be the one implementing all the policies of Task Force COVID. And we have a very good working relation with the government, with the local chief executive, and of course the city council. As I've said, there are some legislators who might not be able to see what we want to do, but ultimately we can work together still.
Right, and I think to the earlier point, Sir Jade, about having some issues with selling, or to your point, Sir Tristan, about advocating, the impact of your success in the management of COVID-19 is going to really help pave the way for more of the, let's say, not yet convinced about the need for preparations, be more supportive of the venture moving forward. Okay, good points. So the way that you've been seeing COVID-19 play out in the different areas in the Philippines, what are your observations about how it has impacted or affected the DRRMO field? Maybe not only in your areas, but in the areas in other places.
Well, for us, for the city of Zamboanga, it has practically changed the scenario. Unlike before, we focus on the natural, we focus on the human induced, but now we have to revisit our plans and programs to include also, as I've said, radiological and biological requirements. These are the new hazards that the country will face in the future. And one of that is these re-emerging contagious diseases. And if there are no vaccines, then there will always be a repetition of what had happened in 2019, 2020. Which is why we have to refocus our trainings, our capacity buildings, our equipment pooling, including the personal management to address future situations such as what we are experiencing now.
Yeah, for me, well, definitely we have to reshape, retool our strategy right now to have a resilient outcome from this COVID-19. Right now, all our plans, projects, programs, trainings have been disrupted by this COVID-19. Most of our funds have been realigned to support COVID-19 response. So time comes that we need to revise our strategy to include COVID-19 pandemic in our future engagement. What we want is that not only natural calamity will be included, but also COVID-19. So in that instance, well, really we are affected, the local Dream O, in shaping our municipality because of this COVID-19 incident.
Right, and it's going to be a continuous process of learning as we go, because as you pointed out, Tristan, this is totally new for all of us, and we're making the playbook as we move along. And hopefully, once we're past through the pandemic, we will have a better sense of how to approach this. Knock on wood, if another pandemic ever hits our shores. So, what has been your personal secret to success, would you say? How have you been able to thrive, succeed, be on top of this situation, both on the personal, the academic, and the professional aspect of being a dream officer in your respective areas? What is your secret?
Mm.
For me,
Okay, Sir
Yes,
Jade.
for me, a supportive family and an efficient staff in the office who can help me out, because DRR is all about participatory community of collaboration or understanding each other's needs and requirements. So for me, if my family supports me in what I do, then I will have no problem, because normally a DRM officer takes most of his time in the offices or in other responses areas. But then you cannot move without an efficient workforce in the office who understands you, who can really work with you and provide you the necessary backstop of the stop work requirements of a DRR. So these are two. And of course, your faith in God. God will always be the center of all the undertakings if you want to have success.
Good points. Tristan.
Um, yeah, for me, well, in addition to the sport that has been mentioned by Doc Jade, important for us to be successful is team unity, meaning teamwork. You have a team. You have to team. You have a good foundation and harmony relationship with your coworker, with your head, with your mayor, and everything around you that supports you. They need to understand that you both all of you needed this kind of endeavor so that the organization will be successful and in turn will benefit the community. So we have to transcend that information to all of these people. And then the second one is that aside from teamwork, you need to be, passionate. Now, most of El Dream O put into a position because, you know, because it's vacant, it's there. But it takes passion to successfully advocate the mandate of the El Dream O office. Without passion, you cannot uh, effectively transcend all the objectives from what this office represent. So you need to be passionate about your job. You need to be passionate about being an L Dream O in order to succeed, because everything else is just, other things. But dream, being an L Dream O, your goal, your objective, you have to be passionate. So teamwork and passion on top of support, family support.
Right, and I really appreciate your answers. So the support is critical to even people outside the Dream O profession. Teamwork is critical because at the end of the day, you cannot handle all of the craziness that happens in a disaster by yourself. And of course, if you do not love what you do, chances are the first disaster you would leave or you would give up. And
Yeah,
then what's Doc Jade
correct.
mentioned, if you do not have an anchor, your faith you might also give up with all of the things that you see. I could imagine sometimes that in a part of the job of the DRM office is to really see the tragedies and the fatalities, and dealing with the family members who are left behind because of this disasters. So I'd like to ask you, gentlemen, if you, let's go back to the discussion on COVID-19. If you, for example, this live stream gets ever watched by somebody in power and the national government, what would be your um, personal wish list from the national government in terms of managing the COVID-19? Nothing controversial, just a personal wish list from your opinions, seeing how things are currently happening right now in your respective areas.
A revisit on how it's done. Specifically, yung mga evacuation centers, maybe it's high time we redesign the building plans for the evacuation center, that it will also be able.
Okay. Doc Jade, we are having some connection issues. Okay, so Sir Jade was mentioning about revisiting the designs of evacuation centers. We'll get back to the, Doc Jade in a while. Tristan, what do you think? What is your
Yeah,
personal wish list?
for me, the wish list from the national government is every time they want to impose something, especially the guidelines, they need to consult us,
Okay.
especially the community level at the LGU, the mayors, because for everything you know, each LGU has different geographic location, has different people, has different personality, different culture. What the interagency task force is doing right now is that it's a shotgun policy without even knowing that these policies will not work in some other places. So what we want is that for the national and the local communicate well through the representative, especially the mayor, because the mayor is the one who is taking charge of their area of responsibility, and they have a close connection with the barangay captain down to the household. So it's important that the perspective of the mayors should be considered also by the by implementing guidelines in the national task force.
Right. Tristan, I'll go back to you about that particular point. Maybe you can explain further what you actually mean by maybe share some instances where the disconnect between the national guidelines and the local implementation became a problem. But I'm going to go first to Sir Jade. You were mentioning about the need to revisit the design of the evacuation buildings. Can you explain?
Yeah, it should be redesigned to see that it can be converted to quarantine areas. I would suggest modular types. I mean to say they can be removed, they can be uh, relocated, they can things that can be done that are easily manageable. You can set up an evacuation center, a quarantine area in a short span of time. It doesn't have to be fixed. Otherwise, that will really be an issue because you'll be spending more and then it will be of no use. So why not design something that's modular, that can be brought to any part of the country, and it will be set up immediately, and then you can already utilize that as a quarantine or area. And I would also suggest, if government will ask me, that's what government will ask me, that we invest in vaccines, we invest in medicine, we invest in research work, because this is just a tip of the iceberg. More will be coming because the world is changing, and this is the new normal. Diseases, infectious diseases will be coming our way.
Signal.
Right. Okay. Just to go back to that point, Sir Jade, the how was it during the Zamboanga siege, the evacuation that happened? Was there also an issue in the evacuation areas during that time? Okay. I think we're still having some connection issues. So back to you, Tristan. So you mentioned that we were talking about this a couple of weeks back when there was some disconnect in terms of the definition of terms between the suspected and the probable. Can you share again that story?
Yeah, way back then, I think 2 months ago, when they defined P PUI and PUM, because the way from the national level they define PUM as someone who is no way back then person under monitoring when they have travel history, and then they went back into their respective community and they're considered PUM, and then they're supposed to be quarantined. Apparently, at the local level, they have their own definition of PUM, because once you go into a place where there is a suspected positive, although you have no connection, you have no close contact with it, you are automatically considered PUM. So that is where the gray area now, from the national down to the local level. And second one, I have to make mention is this back riding incident. For all they know, the national
Back
agency
riding,
did
you're
not
referring to
yeah,
people riding motorcycles together.
yeah, back riding, for all you know, at our level, the rural level, especially in Zamboanga City, because I think they're still using this. These are considered as their primary mode of transportation, especially for people who are going to buy medicines, food, etc. You need to consider the perspective of this rural community, especially through the mayor, that this that they should consider back riding as an exemption to the rule, not not totally implement it wholly drastically, because for all you know, people are affected at that time. Those who want to buy something in the market using a back ride can never get their share of buying these kinds of commodities because it's prohibited. It's different when you use a four-wheel vehicle. So that is where the disconnect from between the national and the local level. Wow.
Okay. And I think the more that we have people like you more vocal about the situations, and with the EMDRCM program continuing to make a positive difference in the mindset, not only from people in the actual role of local disaster risk reduction and management, we can get this collaboration up and running so that hopefully a meaningful transformation can take place. So the issues that you're saying, Tristan, and the suggestion from Doc J can really happen. So who knows? Maybe somebody from cohort one or cohort two or the next cohort can design that new evacuation facility, or somebody can crack the code in terms of really effective communication from the ground up and vice versa. So um, so going back to our discussion about the personal challenges and experiences of being right smack in the middle of the pandemic, what would be your advice to those who are first considering a role in DRCM? Are you telling them, okay, forget about it, don't get into this?
Doc, ikaw muna, Doc. Ano gusto? Ay,
Doc
naka-mute.
Jade,
Mute.
Doc Jade, baka...
Mute.
Yeah, for me
Ah.
personally, my take on this is that we have to walk this pandemic together. We have to walk, we have to experience, and then we have to relate. And then, of course, it should always be without politics. It should always be an undertaking towards humanity, service towards humanity. This is all what I really aspire my co-DRM officers to do. Share what things that you think can help out a fellow man in terms of walking through this pandemic. Because as I always believe that this will not be the last. There will always be several issues or several crises that will still come. Because as I've said, climate change is here. Things are not working well as it should be. So we have to prepare. And only through uh, mutual understanding through mutual cooperation. Can these things can be done? Can these things be resolved if we work together?
Well said. Thank you, Sir Jade. Tristan.
My advice: being in a DRRM profession is not like a walk in the park.
Okay.
So, it takes sacrifice and grit. Uh, we are dealing with lives, especially. So, more or less, we are with the health personnel, with the BFP. So, our nature of our job is more on humanitarian, more on safety of the people, especially in this time of pandemic. So, we need to have a firm and proactive decision making, especially in times of emergencies, because in just 1 second, the life of a person depends on your decision. So all of us in the local Dream O should have this kinds of character. And above all, you must have all the support made from the mayor, from your staff, from the community, from your family. So everything this takes into place. And then, yeah, you kind of like local dream, being a local dream officer. So just like Doc Jade right now, anong oras na? 6:58, and he's still working even
Still,
on weekend.
still signing a lot of
See,
signs.
And you
so
see,
that is
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tristan.
so that is our nature of the job. So if you don't have this passion about working this, and if you are time conscious about your job, you know, forget it,
I'm
because
going.
it is. Yeah, go ahead.
No, could finish it.
Yeah, because being in this field of profession uh, is on a next or in another dimension other than the usual profession.
Right. I was just going to mention, Tristan, because you mentioned grit. I would like to remind everybody that while you see this gentleman very polished and good looking, they're right smack in their respective places, handling the situation as most of the other frontliners are. So that's been an hour. I'm going to ask our guests to also say a little something to those people who are interested to be part of cohort 3 of the EMDRCM program.
Oh.
Perhaps they can share some advice or some recommendation for those who are contemplating on joining the EMDRCM tribe. Sir Jade.
Yeah, thank you, Sir Wally. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Sir Wally for inviting me and Joselle for being part of this activity tonight. Now, for my take, uh, the mayor asked me in last year, why do you want to study? I said, well, Mayor, I am really privileged because I was given the opportunity to study at AIM. I just received the letter accepting me, and I've been dreaming of that since college days. In fact, I have my classmates who are also graduates of the school, so I have to see what really it is at AIM. And good enough, starting last year till December, we had great times studying, working our way at night, burning the midnight candle. Really, it was a passion that I think really made me really change my outlook of what life really is. Specifically, it made me reminisce what student life was all about and what meaningful education can do to a person who is engaged in public service. So from those months that I've been with AIM, it really changed my life. And I would really want those out there who are willing to take the risk, willing to be a model of change in DRR to take part in the cohort 3 program. You will not be, you will not be, should I
Frustrated.
say, frustrated. Just one word, no, not frustrated, but you will really be enlightened, and you have really clarity of thought what DRR is all about. Because when I became a DRR, I thought I knew everything, but lo, when I went to AIM, they told me this is what DRR is all about. And so please join cohort 3.
Thank you, Sir Jade. Tristan.
Yeah, for me, was for to those of you who are passionate about this profession, risk managers or resilient officers, okay, joining AIM, you got nothing to lose. This is sort of an adventure, especially for me because I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. And in AIM, you have different experience. Unlike other educational institution, in AIM, it's a whole different experience and a whole different perspective on DRRM. So might as well join the cohort 3. You'll never you you're going to enjoy it, and then and most of all, it will give you confidence, especially right now that because of this pandemic, okay, it takes guts to really join this kind of profession.
Well said, both gentlemen. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Sir Jade and Sir
Thank you, thank you,
Tristan.
thank you.
You
Thank you.
are heroes, and keep on keep the passion alive. And we hope that you continue to be safe, and we will continue to pray that all the things that you do really resonate well with the stakeholders in your respective communities. We appreciate you spending time with us for an hour. I know it's a stretch, especially for Sir Jade, who's quite busy with all of the things going on right now. But your sharing, your insights, I feel, will inspire and transform hearts and minds of those of us who are able to appreciate better the very difficult role that you play in our community. So with that, thank you. And to all of those who watch
Thank you,
us,
thank you.
this has been another episode of EMDRCM Live. Please join our Viber community. You can check out the link in the Facebook page. So with that, happy weekend, everybody. Stay safe. And until the next episode, thank you. Good night.
Doc, Sunday, Doc, Sunday.
Sunday, kwanta.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Wally, idol. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's not just simply being able to bounce back. It's actually being able to bounce back better.